exactly how to set boundaries with 4 simple steps that work. Welcome to the Best Years Podcast. This is Dr. Darlene speaking to Generation X and baby boomers who want more. I'll share power, skills, and tools with you to get your mojo back and love your life. Boundaries. Oh, what a good topic. Today we'll talk about emotional boundaries, family boundaries, professional boundaries, boundaries at work, all sorts of things, friendship boundaries. But what is a boundary? Today, we'll talk about how do you set them? How do you enforce them? See, there's a skill to knowing how to do this. Get your pens and papers out. Let's get going and talk about it. A boundary is a fence. A boundary is the edge. A boundary is where it stops and something else starts. A boundary is probably, in a human way of thinking, where I end and you begin. It's what I will do, what I will not do, what works for me, what does not work for me. It's a line. If you think about a cute little sheep, and he's out in the middle of the meadow, in the forest, in the woods, it's kind of scary if there are no boundaries. So let's put a nice fence around this darling little sheep. Well, if you put the fence too close, the fence is inhibiting his movement. And he can't run and jump and play. He can't even be a sheep. If it's too far away, I know there's a fence somewhere. It's a little bit scary. So if we have a fence around us, what components make up our fence? What boundaries do we need in terms of general? We need boundaries, say personal boundaries, such as food and drink. What will I accept in my body? How much exercise would I use to benefit my life? What would I do that works for me on a personal level? We could have a boundary of words. What kind of words will we accept coming our way? What kind of words don't work for us? We could have a boundary with substances. What substances work for me and in what level? How many drinks would I have for my rules for myself, for my own boundaries? See, we can do boundaries with other people, but we can also have boundaries and rules, I call them, with ourselves. We may have physical boundaries. You can hit me once a month, but if you hit me more than once, I'm going to leave you. Or we might say my physical boundaries don't touch me. If you bump me, I'm going to leave you. So the boundary can be too tight. It can be too loose. We can have emotional boundaries. I can't be around that person because it drains my energy and it hurts me. So as we think about our boundaries, I'm going to tell you 4 steps to setting boundaries. And if you don't follow the 4 steps, you'll be an average person that only does the last step and it doesn't work. So we need these first steps, and I'll get to it in a moment. First, before the 4 steps, realize that you are important. Have enough self-respect that you care about you. And if you don't have you, you have no one. It's really awful to not have self-respect, because then people take advantage of us. They use our time, energy. They're always calling, wanting things. We give, and there's nothing left. And so the benefit of a boundary is an amazing thing, to be able to say no, to know where the edge is, to know what works and what doesn't. So let's talk about general boundaries with the steps, and I'll give examples. The first step is, what do I really, really want? Let's say someone walks in your house with mud on their shoes. Let's say your grandkids do, and your grown children walk in your house with mud on their feet. Does that work for you? So we might have a rule. So rules and boundaries are closely connected. Boundaries are a little bit more emotional. They're setting the rules in a firm way, so they kind of overlap a little bit. So I don't want any mud in my house. Or, okay, fine, mud just on Thursdays. Or, well, if they're just a little dusty with a little water, that's fine. What is it that you want? Excuse me. Another example. let's say your grown child talks to you disrespectfully. And are you okay with that? And at what level are you okay with that? Are you going to set a boundary right here? Or are you just going to let them continue to call you words? Can they swear at you? Can they tell you you're a horrible person? Or do they have to have respect? Or what will you accept? And see, the question here is huge. What will you accept? What do you really want? That's number one. What really, really, really do you want? Because you can't set a boundary until you've had this little talk with yourself of what works for you. Let's say your kids want you to tend every minute, all the time, and they keep getting pregnant again and again, and they have 27 kids and they want you to tend every day. And you're a mother, and so it's your job to be, good to your kids, and you're a good nana, and so you want to do everything right, and so they just take advantage of you. Okay, we've all been there, you nanas and papas. What kind of rules, what kind of boundaries do you want to set? So number one, what works for you? I know for me, babysitting about 2 hours is all I have. Judge me all you want. But 2 hours. Then I can love the kids. I can do it, I can be there presently for them. And so my kids know. And if they abuse that, let's say I tell them I have 2 hours and they come back 4 hours later. What do? What, do I care? What if it's a one-time episode? What if it's every time? In another example, your kid of whatever age borrows your car and they don't bring it back. What's your rule? What's your boundary? You have a girlfriend that borrows your stuff. What's your boundary about that? So again, number one, what do you really want and what categories do you have? So all in here, you're going to write your categories of, people, hitting you, abusing you, etc. So number one, what do you really want? Number two, decide then within that where the line is, the fence. Where's the line going to be? I'll tend 2 hours. If it's more than that, I won't be tending for you for quite a while. Or what works for you? The third step is decide how to enforce the boundary. If you do that, then what happens? And that's what you have to decide. What's going to happen? If my husband tells me I'm a loser or criticizes me and it's beyond my boundary and I have let him know, what do I do? What is the line? So number 4 is let others know where your line is, the fence, and what will happen if. So, now listen up because there's more important things that need to overlay this. When you're setting a boundary, after you've decided what it is, where the line is, what you will accept, what you will not accept, and what will happen if that happens again, then you need to understand that the verbiage that you use is supersonic important. Boundaries need to be 2 things with verbiage and attitude. They need to be nice and they need to be firm. Write that down. They need to be nice and they need to be firm. I kind of borrowed that from Joy and Gary Lundberg in their book, I Don't Have to Make Everything All Better. One of the best books on the planet. Very laden with verbiage and boundaries and validation. It's fabulous. And they have 4 quadrants. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I've kind of stole that a little bit. And so what I say, to summarize, is a boundary needs to be nice and firm. Too nice is gall. If you can ever start a sentence with gall, it's too nice. Gee, I wish. That's too, I wish you wouldn't bring mud in. I've asked you 10 times. I've set a boundary and I've told you so many times not to wear your shoes in the house, and we just got new carpet and it's just all dirty now, and I just wish you wouldn't. It's just really against my boundary and I'm going to get mad at you. Do that. Please don't do that. That's too wimpy. So we want it to be nice, but we also want it to be firm. Now, too firm is if you ever come with mud on your feet, I'm going to take your shoes and I'm going to shred them and I'm going to burn them. Do you hear me? Don't ever do it again. It's a little bit firm. So a nice, and firm sentence would be, I need you to not have mud on your shoes when you come in. I need you to take your shoes off, actually. And if you blank, then I'll blank. If you come in with mud on your shoes, then I'm going to need to lock the door and make it a solid lock for about a week. Any questions? And I love you. So hear me out here. Nice and firm. Nice and firm. And you want to end your sentence with, and I love you. Any questions? So let's do a real extreme example. If you use cocaine in the house again, I'm going to call the police and they will arrest you. And I love you. Any questions? It's really nice. It's not emotional. I'm not freaking out about it. I'm not being mean and rude. I'm being really nice and I'm being really, really firm. If you step in the house with mud on your shoes again, then I'm going to take your shoes away or lock the door. And I love you. Any questions? Now, you don't need to say, I love you, any questions every time. Sometimes you may want to, but it needs to be embedded that there are no questions. There's no question. The fence has been erected right here. That's what it is. So, not too rigid, not too whiny, but nice and firm. So let's talk about verbiage. I need you to, ... What works for me is, ... This is what I need, ... So this is what will not work for me, ... If you do that again, then I will need to, ... I'm deciding, it's my favorite. I love that one. I've decided that I can only tend 2 hours, or I've decided that I can only go up until 5 o'clock every day, and after that, then I won't be able to join. It's a very firm, nice thing. So I've decided is one of my faves. Another one is I'm choosing to not do that anymore, and so I won't be able to help you. And I love you. Any questions? So again, you don't need to say I love you, any questions, but it's embedded. It's very firm. It's very laden with self-respect. So as I said, there's emotional boundaries. If we go on a road trip together, then I need to have a moment of silence every hour just for my brain. So that's what's going to work for me if we go on a road trip together. So I've actually had to say that to friends. Family boundaries. Mom, I am so happy to come to Thanksgiving. I've decided it doesn't work for me to talk about Dad and your divorce. And so if you're going to talk about the divorce, then I'm going to need to leave. So if you'd like to have me over, then I need you to not talk about the divorce. Does that work for you? And I love you. So family boundaries. Isn't that a good one? Professional boundaries. So Jack, I need you to text me before you come over and talk to me. I really like talking to you. I just need you to text me first because sometimes I'm in a thought thing and I'm really busy in my brain. And so I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Not, Jack, can you please just text me before you come over to my cubicle? It's just, I don't know. And see, the thing about a whiny boundary is you go on and on and on with explanations. I don't want you to come over to my cubicle because then I'm not concentrating and then it kind of, brings me out of it. And I just you keep coming over and I keep asking you not to. And it kind of goes on and on. You want to state this verbiage. I'm deciding. I need you to set it firmly. And then period. Embedded. Any questions? You can set boundaries in all sorts of relationships. You can set boundaries. Friendship boundaries are super important, and sometimes we don't even need to say boundaries. It's kind of like my dog. My dog has never, ever, ever spoken to me. But she's the swearing police. And I've said this in their podcast because it's super funny. She's a little Pomeranian. And if I go, oh, shit, and I get upset, do you know what she does? She runs out. Every time. It's like so funny. And sometimes I don't know I'm being intense. And sometimes even in these podcasts, all of a sudden she runs out. I think, what did I do? If I get really intense, she runs out. And what she's doing is she's enforcing her boundary around herself and leaving. See, what's really important here, this is probably the most important thing, is that a boundary is what works for you. You're not telling someone else what to do. You're saying what works for you. So if I say, it doesn't work, can you please smoke outside, just regular cigarettes, and in order to be my roommate, I need you to smoke down the driveway or out on the back patio. Thank you. And I never once said, don't smoke. I just said what works for me, because I don't end at my skin. I own all of the airspace in the room I'm in, and so do you. And it overlaps sometimes. We need to get along. But what doesn't work for me is this, when you scream obscenities in this room. Now, I'm not telling you to not do that. I'm just telling you that I will remove myself, and I love you. It's so powerful setting boundaries with coworkers, setting boundaries at work, setting boundaries with friends, all over the place, healthy boundaries, and most importantly, setting boundaries with yourself, making rules for yourself, defining the boundaries and knowing what they are. So to recap, self-respect. You're a beautiful, important person. And you know what? Never, ever has anyone walked this earth that is exactly like you. You're special. You're important. And you deserve to take care of your airspace, your body, your ears. You deserve to protect yourself in every way. Not by telling others what to do, but letting others know, red alert, this is what works for me. So number one, what do you really, really want in each category? Once you decided that, decide where exactly the line is. Then number three, decide how to enforce the boundary. And four, let others know what your boundary is, just so you know, it doesn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. Or just so you know, this is going to happen. If you blank, I'll da-da-da. And you let them know the boundary, and then you enforce it. Bam. When you feel weak and people walk all over you, that's when you need to take that time to go sit in the bathroom with the toilet lid down, sit on the pot, talk to yourself and say, all right, what do I really want? What's going to work for me? And this is how I'm going to say it, and I'm going to stick with it because I'm important. If I don't have me, I have no one. So as you learn exactly how to set the boundaries and do it and implement them, you'll have more power in your life by far and away. So happy boundary setting. I hope you learned something today. Please subscribe to my channel so we can hang out and learn more together as we go through the best years of our lives. Thank you and talk soon. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to my channel so we can hang out. Also go to www.whatstopsyou.com for notes to this podcast and learn more power skills to indeed live the best years of your life.